to move away from that. And I think Reckless gave way too much respect over to Uzi. He needs to have faith in his own skills, be able to challenge and even best Uzi at times if they want to take down RNG. He conceded the lane the first time around, and I don't think that's something you could do and expect to beat a team of this quality.
Yeah, I can see the Cogmore, of course, the first ban. That was the champion that played in that game a few days ago. There's the Kai'Sa, Ezreal, Yasuo, so a lot of AD carry bans, Vedius.
Well, this is perfect for Reckless, because his comfort picks are Tristana, the Sivir. If this man is allowed to pick one of these, and he's able to have a fairly staple laning phase, that seems to be one of the go-to winning strategies that Fnatic have found for themselves. But for Royal, they're saying, we are so afraid of Caps, and we're going to take him off two of his most comfortable champions that he has shown so far in this tournament.
And I think rightfully so. Caps has been absolutely incredible for Fnatic throughout this tournament in both their losses and their wins. He has been completely a standout player, and I think with Fnatic on the red side, we could very well see Caps, saving his pick till the very end for that counter pick, which may mean he has to take some more bans.
Well, we see the Rakan first pick is nearly 100% presence, 98% in fact, 16 picks. It's got a 60% win ratio. Very successful champion. Ming, however, did not have a very successful game earlier today. He ate every single Dark Binding. Ollie fight his way.
Yeah, and playing against the Morgana Caitlyn, which at least in North America is the traditional answer to the Xayah Rakan. Reckless is not really that much of a Caitlyn player though, and I'm not sure if we will see it coming through. I do expect at least a Morgana as the answer, as it does match up very well into the Rakan.
I think that Sivir becomes slightly higher in terms of priority because you also have the spell shield for the potential engage from Rakan, and I think it's something he's happy to play, but no, this man, he loves his Tristana. It was a terrified pick for him during the regular season. One of the most consistently banned champions compared to any other region on the planet. And we'll see how well he can do up against the rematch of RNG.
And I tend to prefer the Tristana here over that Sivir because while you can, erase the grand entrance, you can't actually stop both the combo of the quickness and that. The quickness will actually eat the spell shield, then you get hit by the grand entrance. Whereas with Tristana, you can buffer your rocket jump, and all great Tristana players can do that to really kind of avoid that engage. Then you have Braum flying in, blocking all those quills that are coming up from Xayah, so it can work out pretty well.
So far, it looks like Fnatic have drafted very standard towards what they typically do, and very similarly, it can be said for Royal. They've tended to prefer over the last day or so this Xayah Rakan. Bot lane, it gives you a lot of power and it automatically enables you to have an early game lane that you can look to play through. You also have MLXG playing a counter matchup in the form of Graves, so already RNG drafting themselves a pretty strong early game.
And I think you want to see RNG drafting more pushing lanes alongside that, because Graves does best when he's able to be in his opponent's face, invading the jungle, shoving them around, and that is going to require pushing lanes, especially in the mid lane. Having some sort of matchup that you can shove Caps in and really get in Brox's face and try to put him behind would be much to RNG's benefit.
And I wonder how much value both the Galio and the Vladimir will be put on in the next rotation, because we have seen a bit of a resurgence of the Galio, and with Vladimir already taken off the table, we'll see if that becomes one of RNG's priority picks.
Well, one of those mid laners that could have pushed, that could have helped out Karma, banned away, taken off the table, but I see Ryze still up and available. It was what Xiaohu played on day one. Caps played the Yasuo into it, so there is a counter pick opportunity here for either Caps or Bwipo.
And do you want to know a strong...
Yasuo's banned, well spotted as
Do you want to know a strong pushing mid laner that can also roam to side lanes? Quick shot.
Tell me.
It is Aurelion Sol. It was banned away yesterday by Kingzone as a respect.
What would you need to
Caps.
see for Caps to lock that in? Because it would have to be a counter, wouldn't it?
I mean, not necessarily. I feel that assuming it doesn't play into something that's high in mobility and can prevent him from roaming around the map, he'd be more than happy to pick it. And note that they are saving it for the very last pick to make sure that he's in as favorable a matchup as possible.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if he goes for it. I do think it can be fairly effective, but one of the things kind of holding me against that is it doesn't seem like you have extremely powerful lanes on either side. So while you could look to roam down, I'm not sure if they'll have the early game power to really convert on that. Sion can set up for ganks pretty well, but if that's in a tank versus tank matchup, I'm not sure if they'll have the power. Braum does provide good gank assistance, so maybe that could be a target on the bottom lane.
Well, let's find out. Last couple picks, the tempo has slowed down in the draft as the teams are now trying to figure out how they round out their draft. We'll get the Cho'Gath once more, and Xiaohu's mid laner still available to him. Ryze is the one that's screaming out to me, but I'm not sure what else he'll go for.
I mean, the other alternative is the Galio. We did see that you can go for the full AP and you can still have damage. But when you have a Graves and a Xayah, you already have a lot of early game damage anyway. You scale quite nicely into the mid game. And then you have this kind of double tank threat that can enable you to force plays towards the bot side of the map. But you already talked about the Rise. It is very stable, very safe. And ladies and gentlemen, there it is, the Caps Aurelion Sol. Every single split, we would see him play it once. Every single time, he would find a win. And it is one of his big comfort picks, and he's bringing out today against RNG.
And it's going to be about getting out of lane, getting out to those side lanes, finding success. You know, perhaps then they can play more around the bottom lane with the Braum, having that gank assistance, perhaps punish any aggressive play that did come out from RNG's bottom lane, who has been punished an uncharacteristic amount throughout this tournament. While they did fare very well against Fnatic last time, they have been struggling in a lot of their other matchups. So I've got a lot of faith in Caps based on how he's been performing this tournament, but when you play Aurelion Sol, I feel like the game is about Aurelion Sol. It's about how you can affect the map.
Well, that's great, because all of Fnatic's games have primarily been about Caps. So this leans exactly into the member that has been stepping up and has been performing well. Now, of course, as it stands, Fnatic's record at 3 wins and 2 losses has them in 2nd place. They own the head-to-head with Kingzone. Of course, if they take down Royal Never Give Up, they will balance that out. They lost the first game, they'll have a one-on-one, and as we get closer to the last few days, set ourselves up for potential tiebreaker scenarios. Making sure you are at least 1-1 sets you up well. Azael, there's no room for error though, so what can we expect in the early game? Who should we be looking at and why?
I mean, so much of this for RNG is going to come down to actually tracking Caps on this Aurelion Sol. They have some pushing lanes with Cho'Gath on the top side, you have pushing lanes in the bottom side, and Graves wants to get aggressive. But in order to do that, you have to have a read on where Caps is. That comes down to communication. Anytime this Caps goes off the map, that side of the map has to play safe.
All right, let's keep our eyes on the mini-map and who will be reacting. Ladies and gentlemen in Berlin, it is Royal Never Give Up taking on Fnatic. And I tell you what, this crowd has been charged all weekend long. And you can hear the split calls. Vedius, let's turn our attention now to this Aurelion Sol. Turn our attention to some of the builds. I'm seeing a couple of teleports. Nothing too exciting just yet. And obviously the cleanse on that A-Sol mid.
Yeah, it looks like he's decided not to match the teleport coming in from Zhao Hu. He will be running the phase rush to give him that bit of extra mobility, because one of the big things about Aurelion Sol is constantly repositioning in team fights. Your damage all comes from your W, and you've seen that in kind of the trends and changes when you look at their recent build paths. Often you'll see an early Rod of Ages into an immediate Rylaites. It has had a couple of buffs over the last few patches, and Caps in particular, he loves to go for a 3rd item, Shurelias, to get that additional movement speed and basically have the option of constant movement speed on his end and constant slows to his opposition.
I'm also looking down at the rune choices here for the supports. It is Airy for Ming, kind of more lane power there as for in the form of the poke. And also Hill is saying he is not playing Unsealed Spellbook. He's going right for the Guardian, which again is kind of more of that solid lane focused pick and can be very powerful in team fights as well. But it becomes less then about the roaming, less about supports moving around the map as they don't have access to the teleport.
But he doesn't want to roam around the map. He wants people to roam to him, Azael. It's all about Caps. And you can see this is the really obnoxious thing about Aurelion Sol. He often pushes in mid, but look at MLXG. Going for a bit of a sneaky early play in the middle lane.
Let's see what Caps can do. He's got a lot of tools to his kit to get away with this. With the flash and the cleanse, get away from the rune prison. He'll take a buckshot to the face, eaten into the line. Not the most exciting of ganks, but it will give some pressure to Zhao Hu. Make Caps sit a little further back.
And when MLXG goes in there, he's not actually expecting to get a kill. He just doesn't want to invest too much time and actually fall behind as far as the experience and levels are concerned by too much. So Caps playing it pretty safely. MLXG gets what he can, which is a little bit of chip damage.
And now Caps has vision on where MLXG is. This gives him more confidence to start pushing in this lane. And you will note how much mana he burns through during the early laning stages. And this is something that he'll constantly be aware of, because right now, he doesn't have the mana to trade.
Yeah, look at the minimap though. Brox is coming up from below. If Zhao Hu had continued to chase, that could have been turned around. But Zhao Hu, realizing the threat, doesn't chase into the darkness, learned from the mistakes earlier today against Team Liquid. That means that Fnatic get away with it, rather, RNG get away with that play.
And it was a really good ward from MLXG that actually warned him Broxah was coming. Had he not had that ward, maybe he does get greedy for that kill. But, you know, Caps, as you said, out of mana, but you hit level 3, you go to base, you fly back to lane, and you continuously refill and recharge it and keep that shove going. But, you know, Caps, I certainly did miss a fair bit of the farm, you know, when you are doing this push, and sometimes if you aren't playing it perfectly, you will miss a lot of it.
Well, Caps on this Aurelion Sol, 4 wins and 1 loss over his career. 7.3 KDA. So he's comfortable. He knows what he's doing. And of course, you know, we talked a lot about the wave management. I have to keep looking at the minimap. Where is MLXG? Where is Broxah? If Caps keep shoving in with that Celestial expansion, how pivotal will that be? By the way, Ocean Drake being snuck away there by Broxah, extremely pivotal at 3.5 minutes.
Not only is Ocean Drake a really valuable Drake in terms of the early game, we've talked a lot about it throughout this tournament, but bot lane have the push, and they were able to get vision on MLXG towards the top side of the map. Not entirely sure which ward spotted that one out, because I think that was only recently placed in that tri-bush by Whippo, but they have the awareness. They secured this very early Drake. And funnily enough, I was talking to Whippo earlier on in the day, and I walked past him and I said, hey, your Ornn was pretty good yesterday. And he goes, yeah, well, lane is super easy when you get an Ocean Drake at 4 minutes into the game. So I'm sure he's going to be pretty happy now that he's been able to give him that same opportunity.
I mean, it's such an incredibly effective dragon to get that early on. It becomes very hard to push you out. Your jungler essentially never has to go back to base if he doesn't want to then, because oftentimes you're limited more by your mana pool than you are by the actual HP.
We haven't really looked at this bottom lane yet, gentlemen, but as we take a glimpse down, Reckless and Hylissang are even on CS. They actually shoved the wave in pretty heavily, which allowed them to move into the Dragon Pit just a moment ago. And Uzi and Ming, a little bit more defensive this time around. We haven't seen the trades yet, but we'll keep a glance on it as the CS still is bang on you.
And part of that is simply because every time Caps goes into the darkness, you have to say, well, he might be coming here. You have to play with that respect, which makes them step back, which allows Reckless to kind of push in. And that can get Reckless, you know, to this stronger point, because, you know, Tristan is not seen as a super strong laning AD carry, but if you can invalidate the lane phase by always having the push, you skip it.
It's also tied in with the fact that MLXG has passed towards the top side of the map. He did start on the red buff. He went then cleared his Raptors out, cleared his entire top side, and then stole away the enemy Krugs from Fnatic. That meant that in the event that Aurelion Sol or a Broxah shows up towards bot side, they're not going to have that jungle support, and RNG are just forced to play on the back foot.
Oh man, it's going to be so interesting to see how this game plays out. As you mentioned, the mind games, the ability to use that Comet of Legend to switch between lanes so quickly, it also completely changes how you're meant to ward, how you're meant to protect against those plays because of the impact that the single champion has on the game.
It's also really cool to see that Caps has actually held on to all his minion dematerializer charges. Very often at this point in the game, I mean, you look at everyone else's, they've used half their charges. He has not expended a single one because the push is so incredibly strong from Aurelion Sol, and he's not just kind of thoughtlessly using it.
Well, because the push is strong, the mini wave is cleared out. Caps may need to use this cleanse and flash, trying to get away from MLXG, holding on to summoner spells. Voice of Light buys some time. Flashes into the pit. Now Uzi and Ming, they're in fact in trouble. Defensive flash from Ming. Asol's going to join the party in a moment. Broxah is in range. Caps was able to use that Comet to escape for now. Now going to run into Xiaohu. Flash forward. The Rune Prison locks down Caps. Star Surge will not find the stun, but there's enough damage. Broxah's looking to chomp down Xiaohu. Hylissang manages to zone away MLXG and Ming. First blood secured. Rocket Jump comes out from Reckless as MLXG defensively flashes away. Now on the re-engage. That's one back for RNG. Fnatic bit off more than they can chew, and China fights back.
Reckless not expecting the turnaround there, just jumping forward into 3 members. The immediate turn, all summoners blown. They blow up Reckless, and RNG turns in what was looking like a disastrous play into a good one.
And you can just hear the eruption of the crowd. We are split down the middle right now here in Berlin as RNG find themselves 2 quick kills as an answer to Fnatic's aggression.
Unbelievable start. Literally everybody but the top laners getting involved in the bottom half of that map. We'll start with the Caps being jumped on by MLXG.
And you've got to think, with all these summoners down, it's going to draw more attention to the bottom side, but here it is once again. Hylissang immediately flashing in, proccing that passive. They force out the flashes, you know, from Ming, from Uzi, pushing them back, but This is, I think, a little bit much from Xiaohu. Broxton does a great job actually blocking the Qs. You can see him moving in between the two.
He does, and immediately Xiaohu gets punished, and this is where Fnatic think they can go for more. And remember, it is Ming that has no summoner spells. Instead, they choose to chase onto MLXG, and a just fantastic punish from the rest of the RNG members. The pillar kind of acting against Fnatic as they end up getting collapsed on.
All right, Caps is forced to use that cleanse. Oh, very nice collateral damage from MLXG. Gets him out of range of stun. The Voice of Light is still available for Caps. If Xiaohu goes low enough, he's going to get bursted down. Caps unleashes the heavens. It's not done yet. Look at the top lane. Brox and Bwipo looking at double team. Let me flash forward into a decimating smash. 200 HP
Caps is
still
coming up.
left to burn through. Caps can come in. The Comet of Legend. He's flying high. Where's the Star Surge? Not going to be used just yet. Popped at the end, and one last tag. Fnatic take the lead.
Caps is just everywhere in this game. The early Swifty Boots fights on the bot side.
It's not done yet! Reckless gets burst out by Uzi and Ming. The engage shuts him down. Hylissang's running to the tower. He's gonna get burst out by the Featherstorm. Tries to get some CC down in reply, but Uzi shuts him out.
It's typically China that is known for their aggression, but it is Fnatic that are coming to play. Yeah, RNG are no slouches either. Kills across the board, fights all over the map, and it is both teams that find themselves with 2 quick kills.
Yeah, so here it is again. Caps playing this so patiently. The roam coming up from Hylissang. RNG spotted him on the ward. They try to retreat, but this is just beautifully played by Caps. Hylissang tanking it up, and Caps able to finish off the kill. And then at the same time, 2 members on the top side correcting on...
Yeah, and then you have the ability of Caps to just very easily roam up towards the top side. We talked about when you have an Aurelion Soul, one of his great strengths is his ability to roam, and if he can just come in and join these ganks, that's an easy way to pick up those early kills. Now, Reckless, he steps a little too far forward. Ming with another fantastic punish, and unfortunately for Reckless, he's not able to proc his jump in time, allowing RNG to find themselves 2 easy kills.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty careless play by Reckless. He walked forward into the feathers and got rooted, which guaranteed the grand entrance there, and he is disappointed with himself on that one. You cannot walk forward into the Xayah like that unless you can win the fight. You have to be cognizant of where the feathers are at all times.
And that's exactly what punished Reckless. Him and Hylissang have already roamed to the middle lane. There's a lot of CC to come from. Rocket Jump, I think, even applied the slow. Winter's Bite for the stun. Fnatic look to even out the kill score, and it will be donated to Caps. 3-0-1, but it is at the cost of some pressure in the bottom lane. The gold is 600 apart, kills are even, and this is just blow for blow back and forth.
All right, guys, I'm a little confused because typically it's the Aurelion Sol that does the roaming, not the Tristana Braum. But it does feel like Fnatic are saying, you know what, we can shut down Xiaohu. He still doesn't have flash, but now we see more fighting bot side.
Oh, we do indeed. Here comes Fnatic. Glacial Fisher manages to knock up 2. Ming's got no flash available. Teleport's coming in for Bwipo, but is it too late? Cancelled or interrupted, I'm not quite sure. Caps is now backing away from Xiaohu. The Celestial expansion has put a lot of damage down, continuing to chase it out. Now Caps running for his life. It may have been Let Me that actually was channeling the teleport. I misread that one. Regardless of the play, ends up being, thank you very much, 1 kill in favor of RNG. Just chaos everywhere this game.
I mean, this is such an exciting game. Caps moving everywhere, the team roaming around the map here as well. But it's starting to feel somewhat similar to their previous game, where it is Uzi and Ming far ahead of the Fnatic bot lane, but it's Caps, kind of the pressure valve from them, creating a lot of movement around the map, and he's the one with the lead, and it's going to be who can kind of buy time for their weaker members, because Xiaohu is going to need to scale up, and so is Reckless.
Yeah, exactly that. The fact that Xiaohu is behind is not the biggest detriment to RNG, given how well Let Me is doing in lane, along with the fact that their bottom lane is so strong. RNG, if they take that bot tower down, which right now they're setting up quite nicely to do, Fnatic will definitely be under a lot of pressure.
I want to talk about that bot lane a little bit more, because coming into this match, we were looking at the head-to-head between Uzi and Reckless and trying to compare and contrast the 2 guys, especially from their day 1 performance, where Reckless just got sort of dumpstered. You can see huge difference in damage per minute, huge difference in CSD, but because Uzi has done so well, he is one of the guys that can make or break it for RNG.
He certainly is, and it's just... Uzi is a really good player. right? Like, that is just the easiest way to put it, and this guy is just so dominant over his opposition, not only during the laning phase, but in team fights as well, that his team works so well just to give him so much success. But the problem is that when you put him behind, RNG really struggle to find that same level of success. You can just see from some of the stat differences between when he's ahead and when he does suffer.
Well, for now, Uzi's under pressure, but he is ahead. That is why Fnatic are trying to shut him down. Ming has flash available. He's not used it yet. Gonna try dash out to the side. The charm from the quickness. Caps manages to escape for now. Unbreakable will need to be used a few seconds longer, and Hylissang's ultimate can come down. It needs to be massive. It needs to save Fnatic. Teleport being channeled by Whippo from the base. He's going to arrive in the fight. Pillar comes out from Broxer after the flash. The re-engage. Broxer chomps down Ming. Uzi's stunned. He's going to get chunked out as well. Reckless takes him down. Gets the reset. Has a rocket jump available. Jumps to the tower. Now Xiaohu's the target. Fnatic are looking for blood. Fnatic are looking for RNG's mid laner. And he's going to escape for now. The flash sends him out, but the tower may be opportunistic.
Yeah, they could get the bot lane turret here, and that was so beautifully done by Fnatic. They disengage, and they wait until RNG is fully committed. Then Whippo TPs in. He finds the re-engage. They get 3 kills. They get tons of summoners, and they will get first turret gold. Solo onto Reckless. He's back in the game.
Man, Azael, I'm going to need another play-by-play if these guys keep fighting like this. With a VCS now. 13 kills in 12 minutes across
My
the
kind of League of
entire
Legends.
map.
And I was wondering where the TP was from Whippo, because he still holds on to it. He has that TP advantage over Let Me, yet he doesn't use it to follow up with Fnatic in this play. Really good charm from Ming to drag Caps under the tower. One tower shot could have been his life. You then think this is a dire situation for Fnatic. RNG are in the better position, and then finally the TP comes through the moment RNG overstep.
Exactly. As soon as they pass that minion wave, Whippo gets in behind them. He has the ultimate available, charging straight in. They know the summoners are down for the bottom lane. They get the kills, they get the turret, and they have the lead.
And the fact that Whippo uses a minion to land the slow onto Uzi, the follow-up stun from Caps as well into the knockup. Whippo did everything right in that fight, and Fnatic find a huge lead.
They do, and while we're in the replay, gentlemen, RNG got a Mountain Drake. It'll be the cost of a second tower. Fnatic extend that gold lead to 2,500. RNG are no slouches, though, and as we hit the 15-minute mark, it is a plus 13 CS advantage for Uzi. We just looked at Uzi in wins and losses when he has a CSD advantage, when he has 100% kill participation, and when you see how well Ming played that last team fight, there's no ways Fnatic are out of the woods and safe just yet.
Definitely not, but they're in such a better position than in their first game. Yes, Uzi is up a little bit of farm, but the turret is still alive for Fnatic. They had lost that in a straight-up 2v2 by this point in game 1. They were down 30+ CS at this point in a 2v2, so definitely in a much better position, and getting Reckless to his 2-item power spike at a fast pace is going to mean good things for Fnatic's team fight.
And I just love seeing the difference between trying to play a style that you think is good versus just playing what you're comfortable with. You can criticize Reckless for playing these out-of-meta champions, and Tristana's weak right now, and Sivir doesn't fit in the meta, but Fnatic have developed a style that enables them to make it work, and with Caps outperforming compared to the regular season, Fnatic are finding these opportunities, and it's RNG that is on the back foot.
And you've seen that multiple games in a row now, gentlemen, where the other lanes go to Caps. You know, we talked about Ace Soul. This game, he's going to impact side lanes. When you see the AD carry and support going to the Ace Soul lane to be like, we got you, bro. We got your back.
And I feel so bad for Xiaohu, because the poor guy, the last time he met against Fnatic, yes, he found the win, but his scoreline at the end of the game was 0-3-2. He had to go 1v1 up against Caps' Yasuo, and he was constantly put under pressure, and his team didn't enable him. He didn't have the same level of support that he's had in other games, and it just feels like Fnatic's game plan has been to shut down Xiaohu and put Caps on the biggest pedestal possible.
And I think it is honestly really intelligent, you know, going away from your opponent's expectations, right? As you said, when you have the Aurelion Soul, you expect the Aurelion Soul to be going elsewhere on the map. You don't expect as the Rise to be the one under fire, but Fnatic having good vision control in the rivers, Hylissang in particular making some very, very pivotal roams up to the mid lane. And he has been having a pretty standout game. I think his scoreline doesn't necessarily depict that, but his roams and his assists have been very, very impactful.
I completely agree with that. And again, it is a 2,000 gold lead, but it's nearly 20 minutes in the game. That is not a gigantic lead. When you look at the CS differences, Xiaohu and Uzi keeping ahead of their opposite numbers. 100% kill participation on Caps at 404. Broxer, 303. He's doing exceptionally well in the right place at the right time. Right now, the question seems to be, can they catch Let Me before he gets to safety? I think he'll make it out.
I think he'll be fine. And the one thing I'm looking at with regards to RNG's composition is they do again have this 1-3-1 style, which they've had multiple times throughout the tournament, with a little bit more of a 4-1 in there, given you kind of want that Cho'Gath to group up with the rest of his team, especially when it comes to playing around that Baron. But when it comes to playing side lanes, again, it also becomes difficult for them to really match, considering how strong Caps is right now on the Aurelion Sol. And he doesn't need that teleport because he does have the Comet of Legend to join his team should they want to try and force a play.
And how easily he can collapse on Xiaohu if he does show up in the side lane. You know, if you are against Bwipo, they're actually dropping Rift Herald mid to drop pressure, and they're going to rotate to the top side where Bwipo is already shoving up that wave, trying to effectively guarantee themselves that top lane tier 2.
Such good use of the resources available. Fnatic are playing the map exceptionally well. The Banner of Command empowered Siege Minion in the top lane will help take this tower out. Now keep your eyes on Caps. He's got Flash, Cleanse, Ultimate available. He hasn't got a lot of runway to charge up that Q, not to get the stun. Not going to need it just yet. It's just the tower. 4 towers to 1. Fnatic will be happy with that one. They will back away. There is a Baron spawning in a minute and a half. The Mountain Drake's coming up shortly after that. And Fnatic sitting very comfortable as we move into the mid game.
Yeah, so hopefully things will slow down for both teams a little bit. They can reset themselves. People can go back, spend some of their gold, pick up a bit of vision, and we can use this time to talk about what this game means to the standings. Because you've got to remember, we're now at the halfway point. This is the rematch. And RNG took the first win over Fnatic last time, but if Fnatic get a win here, they elevate themselves to 4-2 in the standings. They put themselves above Kingzone temporarily, and they, considering coming into the tournament, their day 1 performance, you would not expect that, as we now see a roam bot.
Oh, we do indeed. Let me just a bit overextended here. 4 members of Fnatic, correction, 5 members of Fnatic nearby. Caps will be the one that's gifted the kill. It is a minute before Dragon, 30 seconds, spawn timer plus Team P. So Let Me could get involved if Fnatic stuck around, but Baron is what's being sort of threatened, at least the vision for now. RNG pulling some of their resources up to the north of the map.
Now, I don't feel you needed to send all 5 members from Fnatic. They will end up losing a wave to the mid lane turret.
Numbers.
Safety in numbers, that is very true. And they kind of gain vision control around the bot side of the river, but the risk that you have is that RNG could have perhaps traded that for mid to tier 1, and they did look for it, but they decided not to overextend. Xiaohu, even though he has been hard camped, is still sitting at level 13. He has that level advantage over Caps. He's sitting quite nicely in terms of farm as well. And he's working towards his second major item already with the tier fully stacked, even though this is a very, very late Rod of Ages.
Yeah, with Caps, I'm really looking already at the Rylai's completed, the Roa already almost fully stacked. Rylai's just makes it that much harder to ever play a side lane, because not only do you have the phase rush, you have the slowdown from that Rylai's, and if you're ever in an extended lane, as these lanes get longer and longer as the turrets are dropping, it gets so terrifying to try to move out and get that farm. And that's why Fnatic is now going to be playing for vision around Baron, trying to make this big, dark, scary area where they can then find engagement with these slows, with this Aurelion Sol, and try to punish RNG.
And if Fnatic can play the map as well as they did for that top inner turret, Fnatic managed to get that kill. They punished Let Me. It's extended that gold lead to 4,000 in a very short space of time. Opened up the Dragon as well, so this will be a Mountain Drake. Everything is in favor of Fnatic for now. And as long as they play the set up well, they'll get themselves in position for Baron, but they don't want to contest, or don't want to get themselves in a potential team fight area or 50-50 Baron against the likes of a Cho'Gath or the Rakan, which could be terrifying in that space.
And for RNG, their team fight becomes about combos, right? It becomes about the engage largely from Ming. So much of the emphasis is going to have to be on this guy, because really, Cho'Gath is not the one to engage. No one else really has much form besides perhaps a flash root from Xiaohu. It has to be about Ming. It has to be about him finding these key members like Reckless, like Caps, and then the follow-up coming through to eliminate one of those carries immediately at the start of the fight. Especially if Reckless goes down to start a fight for Fnatic, the team fight damage can be pretty lacking from the rest of the members.
Yeah, I think you highlighted a really good point there, Azale, because execution seems to be the big thing for RNG, because when you just look at the scaling, like Uzi versus Reckless, Xayah versus Tristana, you kind of automatically give that over towards Fnatic's side, and Aurelion Sol, while difficult to play and fight, so obnoxious, especially for the short range on Xiaohu, but we know RNG are a good team fighting team. Even if they don't rely on it to win games, you have the Cho'Gath, you still have that Baron win condition. If you're able to set up properly around it, you could potentially rush it down. And RNG, even though they're at a deficit, there are still a couple options that they have left. They just have to be proactive now, otherwise the scaling gap is going to get a little too big.
Over the last 5 games of the group stage, Fnatic have had superior Baron control. Fnatic have secured 5 and conceded 3. On the inverse, RNG secured only 2 and conceded 5. So around the pit, around the objective, of course, a winning record versus a losing record will have a direct impact on those stats as well. It is something that'll play into Fnatic's favor, and you can see they use that unstoppable onslaught from Bwipo just to sort of threaten Uzi, get the Feather Storm out, extend that gold lead even further, and Fnatic are playing this one safe. Push the waves, get the vision, then peel back to Baron, but you can see a number of RNG wards in the pit still.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how the map is currently set up, and for Fnatic, a lot of their vision is centered around the enemy jungle, whereas for RNG, a lot of it is around the Baron area. And often you'll see that teams have a couple of options when looking to play around the Baron. Number one is you kind of clear out the pit and then you steadily increase your vision further, but you can actually skip a step. And if you maintain control over the enemy jungle for an extended period of time, you know that the enemy vision is guaranteed to run out. But they haven't been able to maintain control, therefore Fnatic have to reset, they'll have to regain control over the river, and this back and forth should be happening for quite a while now, probably until Reckless completes his rapid fire count.
And it's looking like Fnatic has their eyes set on this last outer turret in the bottom lane. They're trying to knock that down. Caps moving down. Could just assist with taking it out, and the intermediate has been popped.
Let's see what's happening here. Feast is available for Lem if he feels the need to use it. As it stands, Fnatic in a good position. Obviously, NALC has picked up a win against RNG in China earlier today. If Fnatic close this out, it's a good day, EU and NA against China. And it just keeps this group stage even more interesting, but they still need to get past these final hurdles, and the game has slowed down significantly from the laning phase.
And it's very scary for RNG. When you're sitting at 2 wins, when you are behind in this game, if they fall 2 and 4, they're 1 game ahead of TL, 1 game ahead of EVOS.
All right, let's take a look at this. The Realm Warp comes in, but it manages to equate to nothing. Teleport from Bwipo. I can't quite see where he's going. The Celestial Expansion is tearing through RNG as Royal Never Give Up are fading backwards. Damage onto Hylissang roots him down. The Rune Prison into the Overload secures the kill, but Caps is forced to run for his life. Bwipo's got no flash available, so he'll get turned into zombie mode, and Fnatic have lost the fight. MLXG secures the double kill.
And this is the team fight execution we talked about for RNG. They forced the fight in the middle lane. They're able to outplay Fnatic. They're now the ones on the Baron, but Broxa has flash.
They still have Feast available. Lemmy didn't even use it, so they have that Smite Feast combo. It's going to be hard here for Broxa.
Is Broxa going to try? No, he flashes it way too late. You're not going to be able to escape there. Caps tries to get some damage down with the W. Late to the party, RNG get Baron.
And just like that, RNG is right back in the game. They're only down 2,000 gold. There's a low top lane turret. They could close that completely, and here is the fight once more. Fnatic pretty spread out.
Yeah, you've got to keep your eyes on Uzi and his positioning because he's sitting on the back line. Nobody is focusing him down right now. Ming with another fantastic engage, and then Uzi is free to just constantly hit onto the front line. A fantastic feather call just rips through Hylissang, and with one of the major frontliners down, and Fnatic zoned out, Cap zoned out of the fight, Reckless just cannot output the same amount of damage that Uzi can.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, RNG just played that fight so beautifully well. There wasn't the follow-up damage-wise for Ming in that fight, but he bought so much time for his carries. They spread out, they kite back, they focus the front line of Fnatic, and once Bwipo and Hylissang are down, there's not much left.
Uzi sends his regards. You saw the damage graph a moment ago. 100% kill participation at 117. The same is true for Ming at 3, 2, and 5. And Fnatic, they still got one of those minion dematerializers sitting with Hylissang, but against Baron and potentially a banner empowered minion, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Bwipo looks for the engage onto Uzi, bit off way more than he can chew, and Xiaohu takes him down. Now against Baron, all of a sudden Fnatic have to defend 4 versus 5. Half of the studio is alight as RNG are pushing down the mid lane.
You just can't try to catch Uzi out like that. This man had his ultimate. He still had the flash available, and now RNG are looking to secure their first inhibitor.
Yeah, Fnatic are making the call to just sacrifice it. You can see Caps is up in the top side of the map, and RNG will back off, but that is now the gold lead for RNG. Such a momentous swing off that one fight, off the kills there, the turrets, the Baron. They are taking so much from a minor mistake from Fnatic.
Unbelievable swing. Let's take another look at this. Bwipo fancying his chances.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see how that was going to work. Caps is not even there. They don't really have vision on the rest of RNG. Uzi has his ultimate available. You know, maybe just thinking he had to make a play, but I don't think desperation time had really arrived.
And the thing is, for RNG, their team fighting is scary, but Fnatic still have scaling on their side. It's simply a matter of just how well Ming plays these fights. Azael, you were talking about it earlier on, and if he finds that good ult knockup, it can buy time, it can allow you to find the pick that will win you the fight. And Fnatic just have to respect it. They have to spread out. They have to make Ming's life harder when trying to group up and have these 5 versus 5.
Earlier today, gentlemen, Royal Never Give Up lost a game to Team Liquid because of that Baron steal from X-Smithy. You know, they were behind a lot of the game as well, so kudos to X-Smithy for steal. There we go. Fnatic won a game that turned out to be extremely dramatic, chaotic, back and forth, and involved several inhibitors being down and some split pushing. So maybe that's warmed them up from having an inhibitor down in the mid lane, because they're going to have to lean on that experience if they want to claw back control. All of a sudden,
right where they want them.
Exactly. Fnatic's defending. Fnatic's playing on the back foot. And it's up to RNG now to press their advantage and press this lead further.
And credit to Xiaohu. This man, even though he was hard camped in the early game, he is still hugely relevant to this RNG lineup. 1-3-3 with 300 CS, and he's completed his 3rd major item, level 16 as well. Even though he was shut down, you still cannot afford to count this man out.
No, you cannot. Tower number 6 will fall in favor of the Chinese representatives. They've got a 3,000 gold lead as we get closer to 30 minutes on the clock. Baron has worn off, but that was a pretty sizable Baron power play, if I say so myself. Yeah. At least 3 towers, an inhibitor, a couple of kills to boot.
It really was, and one of the things that I think is really working in RNG's favor right now is the fact that there's very little armor that has actually been purchased up by the front line of Fnatic, and you have the Graves as well as this Xayah. It's essentially only MR really that has been bought. Yes, there is a Zeke's for a little bit of armor. Yes, there is a Banner for a little bit of armor, but you're sitting on an Abyssal Mask as well as the Warmogs on the Scion. It's not a lot to really kind of keep you safe here.
Well, let's see what Bwipo decides to do later. It was his re-engage. Obviously a call from the team that may have cost an inhibitor under Baron. So the swinging gold from 6k gold down to 2k gold up. Now teleports available for Let Me and Xiaohu. And as the buff has expired and the game has now somewhat reset as far as the map is concerned, it's at least a Cloud Drake before Elder, and Baron will be up in a few minutes' time. So we're in that passage of play where each team will prioritize an objective and then start to set up some vision to play around it.
So I'm looking right now at how Fnatic will try to defend this last tier 2 tower, because RNG, they had a huge Baron power play. They are grouped up as a 5-man. Caps is forced to defend mid, and I feel like they just have to concede.
All right, where is the Star Surge? Where is the Comet of Legend? That combo started in base. Fly, chase that Q down. This is a great engage tool if Caps wants to combo with Bwipo, but they don't feel the chances just yet, Azael.
Yeah, Reckless actually picking up a double BF sword there, which is pretty atypical, perhaps wanting to try to prioritize getting as much power right now, but you know that could eventually be the Bloodthirster plus the GA, but definitely going to delay the actual completion of one of those items. And
no QSS either.
Yeah, no QSS is pretty scary with the amount of CC available.
If one more team fight determines this game and there's 3 stopwatches on the side of RNG, that is a lot of frustration to deal with and to get through. If you don't get those resets on the Trist, if the Celestial expansion doesn't get the bodies down because of the Hourglass, that could be scary for Fnatic.
Yeah, and the fact that there's still, as I said, there's really no armor on the team. You have Uzi at 100% crit rate on this Xayah.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Caps and Brox are way out of position. Ming with the quickness shuts him down. RNG go fishing and they find Fnatic's best member, but what can Fnatic do with the time?
Caps and Broxer were trying to set up a flank to get behind RNG as they were setting up vision around the Baron. They get spotted out as MLXG is just clearing through his blue side, and they're able to find the pick. Unfortunately for RNG, they don't really turn it into anything as the Baron was not alive yet.
Yeah, but the question is, can they just go straight to that Baron and rush it down? Because it's going to be spawning before Caps is back up. He can fly out there pretty quickly, but RNG have a small window. We'll see if they're willing to try to risk it.
Hourglass completed for Xiaohu. His Rod of Ages just hit max stack, so even though it was a late start, It is fully powered up. 4 items on that rise. MLXG comes into the next fight with his Phantom Dancer as well. So a lot of power on the RNG squad. Baron is up. It is being started, and Caps is only spawning in a moment.
It's too late. Fnatic is not moving quickly enough, and the amount of damage on this team means RNG get a clean Baron.
RNG get as many Barons in this game as they did in the 5 previous games. Can Fnatic defend? Because as it stands, they are starting to fall apart at the hinges.
And so far this MSI, we have had teams beating each other left, right, and center. Only yesterday it was Fnatic that were able to take down Kingzone. But then this morning, Liquid took down RNG. And with a win here for RNG, they could equalize the score. They would hold the head-to-head record over Fnatic as well. And they would make this group stage ever more tense.
All right, let's take a look here. Bwipo just stepped into vision, if I read that correctly. Let me and Ming.
It's Operation Red Buff. Rex says, they took mine. It's not fair. We need to get it back.
And he did indeed. Manages to steal that one with the double BF sword build. Reckless currently sitting on 1,700 gold. So he needs to pick up a little bit more before he can upgrade one of those.
He could buy his GA now, but I think he really wants the Bloodthirster, which is going to give him a lot of power, and they're looking for Let Me.
All right, got themselves a stun. It's still 3,500 HP to burn through. That Feral Scream did so much work on the silence. Enough time for RNG to arrive. There's a flash. There's a quickness available. Ming, keep your eyes on him. He needs to be the engaged tool, and that's why Hillisang gets him with the Winter's Bite. Now MLXG away on the side. GA picked up for him. He's going to get an end-of-the-line damage. The fight is now split. Realm Warp will deliver Xiaohu to the back line. Caps forced to flash defensively, and Fnatic escape with their lives.
Yeah, Caps should not have split off from the team like that, though. Perhaps overestimating his strength in that 1v1 against MLXG, but MLXG chunks him down exceptionally low, and the Realm Warp comes in from Xiaohu, forcing out the flash.
And the thing is, he did separate the rest of RNG from Fnatic, though, which perhaps he was trying to be that sacrificial lamb to keep his team alive. And Ming, using his flash and ulti, was not able to find the collapse, which means that engage tool will not be available for the next fight. RNG do have good vision control. If they could extend it a little bit further, then a TP flank from Let Me could arguably be one of their next best engage options.
Oh man, let's keep an eye on the vision, because remember the first time these two teams played, it was the 3000 IQ Living Artillery from Uzi that spotted Fnatic. One final team fight after an epic back and forth. That is what determined that game. It may be the same here today.
And Reckless, in classic Reckless fashion, is going for the highest DPS possible build. Forget the survivability. He grabs an Essence Reaver, which is really going to up the time that he has that rapid fire available on his Q. The amount of DPS he will put out is tremendous, as he is now at 100% crit as well.
Oh, okay, the inhibitor is alive in the mid lane, but will it be alive for long? 50 seconds on Baron buff as RNG are inside Fnatic's base. The empowered cannon chipping away at the inhibitor until Uzi comes in and finishes it off. Fnatic don't fancy their chances. We'll let that one go down for the second time this game. Continue to play defensively.
It's just so scary for Fnatic to engage on this RNG lineup when they have so many levels over their counterparts. 18 for Xiaohu, 17 for Uzi. Let Me doesn't look like he even takes damage. RNG just looking so strong as a 5-man unit.
And I think this is where Fnatic may make their stand. Giving up one exposed inhibitor, not that big of a deal, but dropping a second and the turret could mean a lot.
All right, the Star Surge gets a stun onto the top laner, and while the asteroids are doing some damage for Caps, I simply don't think it's enough. Voice of Light is still available if he needs that final get out of my face button. Reckless has flash available to him, and luckily the minion wave is deleted. Baron has timed out, but RNG are not stopping.
Most importantly though, Ming has his ulti. Keep your eyes on the support of RNG as he might look for an engage.
There's no flash available for him. Let Me moving all the way forward. Look at Ming threatening the engage, threatening the use of that quickness. He throws out a couple more spells before he backs away. They get the tower. RNG do not stick around any longer, and they back away to safety.
Yeah, very patient play here from RNG. Gonna go back to base, spend up that gold. They are reaching full build for basically all of their members pretty soon.
6,000 gold up, Azael. You mentioned that. QSS sitting with Uzi as well. A lot of damage, a lot of tools available to the RNG squad. And with supers in the mid lane, with an exposed bottom inhibitor, for RNG, they just need one clean fight around either the Elder or the Baron. And if Fnatic have any missteps, they will go down 0-2 in the head-to-head to RNG. Despite the fact they'll be tied in scorelines at 3-3, RNG being 2-0 up gives them huge advantages as we near the last few days of groups.
And it was such a good start for Fnatic. Caps, he was 5-0-4 very early on into the game. Yet RNG, they needed to find a clutch fight against Fnatic. They were able to force Fnatic into that situation. Ming executed the fight perfectly, and they transitioned that into a Baron, and then all of a sudden, they just flipped the gold so heavily back into their favor. And this is just one of the core strengths that RNG have been able to demonstrate throughout their LPL run.
It really is, and the team fights are going to be so interesting because so much of it comes down to can they either zone Reckless out of the fight and keep him away from your squishy members, or will Reckless get to Free Fire? Because if he gets to Free Fire a couple shots on any of these squishies, they will die. At the same time, with Graves, Rise, and the Xayah Free Firing on any of the front line of Fnatic, they will go down in a hurry if that damage is not coming out from Reckless.
We've seen that happen a number of times already. Uzi's at full build, just needs to sell those boots if he wants to get even more damage, but 6 items at 38 minutes, 450 CS at the 38-minute mark is mind-boggling. I think a number of CS records have been shattered this group stage already. But gentlemen, we are entering the final minutes before Baron comes up. 1 minute. Look at the vision from RNG. They've extended it. They've positioned themselves beautifully to play around and challenge this next objective.
Yes, that's the easiest setup that RNG have. They keep mid and top pushed in. Bot lane, they were not able to take the inhibitor down. They just set up a push earlier, and Let Me will happily go back down to that lane, keep the pressure up, and they're just trying to keep Fnatic in their base as much as possible. Don't let them get any of that vision back in their half of the map.
It is a good thing for Fnatic, though, that the only inhibitor down is the mid lane, because that is the easiest one to play around while still actually defending that Baron. So very critical that they were able to defend that bottom lane inhibitor, as this next Baron certainly could decide the game, and that's up in 20.
And the thing is, what complicates the matter is that while the Baron is obviously where RNG are prioritizing now, about 40 seconds after Baron spawns, Elder Drake spawns. And Fnatic have got themselves 2 Elemental Drakes as well, so you don't really want to give that over. Fnatic have been able to shove the mid lane far enough that they're feeling bold. They're emblazoned. They're stepping forward. But at what cost? RNG are surrounding! Reckless gets away with the rocket jump, and Hylissang is already dead. The Realm Wolf will deliver Let Me into the middle of Fnatic, and they are split up. Caps is running for his life. Let Me's going low, but look at MLXG. He's jumping in the back line. As it stands, Reckless survives for now. No real health lifesteal to speak of. RNG get the kill and they get away.
And they're going to Baron. Let Me again, saving his feast for that eventual Baron. They're trying to secure it. That is their major goal, and they will get this Baron. Fnatic is not anywhere close enough to do anything about it.
Can Fnatic even challenge the Elder? It's 20 seconds before Hilly comes up. RNG could have both buffs to set themselves up for the final push.
And this is all about Ming. This guy has had a phenomenal Rakan game. He did a beautiful job in the laning phase of mitigating as much as he can from the early pressure of Fnatic, but in these team fights, he has been standing out so much. If he is not able to land these multi-man knockups, these fights become so much harder for RNG to play, yet he's finding them multiple times.
Hylissang's going to be arriving a little late to this party. Keep your eyes on the minimap as he's running in. So far, it's 4 versus 5. Elder is being started by MLXG.
And if Fnatic go for this and lose this fight, that is the game, but are they willing to give it up?
Well, Fnatic are not going to concede for now. They've bullied themselves into a position. Whipper, though, is cut off from the rest of the team. He gets jumped on, forced to use the Unstoppable Onslaught just to escape. That was a retreat call, not something Sion says often. Elder Dragon is fully reset. The minion wave in the top is pushing into Fnatic's base, while Xiaohu's shoving mids.
Yeah, and they have full control of this. Reckless now has his BT. They're looking for a fight here.
They are indeed. The quickness is available to Ming. Look at the Voice of Light. It's chunking out MLXG. He's going away.
It's all about the dragon.
Picked up by Fnatic. Now the fight needs to happen. Glacial Fisher comes down, and Uzi gets knocked into the air. Fnatic are backing away. Minions are still pushing into their base. That's a root. That's a dead Blippo. He gets turned into zombie Sion mode, and Fnatic are running for their lives. Keep your eyes on Reckless. He's caught. He's silenced. He's feasted, but he's not dead yet. Finally, Xiaohu takes him down. Royal never give up. The quadra kill for Uzi, and Fnatic are dumpstered.
RNG find a phenomenal fight against Fnatic. They have the Nexus in their eyes, and they are looking for the 2-0 over Fnatic.
And Reckless without the QSS there, the flash route from Xiaohu deciding that fight, allowing Let Me to get in on top. Uzi flashing in, and that seals it.
Royal never give up, bounce back from an early game to take down Fnatic and own the head-to-head 2-0.
And I cannot praise Ming enough for so many fantastic fights. He was able to find so many key targets. He was able to have such a big impact. And RNG, after what was such a huge deficit, to come out and turn it around in such an impressive way. Big win here for RNG.
And really showcasing just how good they are at team fighting. This was extremely impressive. Yes, they have played a lot of 1-3-1 games here, but with such a squishy composition, the margins are so narrow for mistakes, and they played it incredibly well.
If you turned the nameplates off and compared Ming's Rakan against TL versus Ming's Rakan against Fnatic, you might not say it's the same player. 100% kill participation. Got the majority of that game. Him and Uzi with the very tip of the spear, and they played every team fight flawlessly. That mid-game fight at what, 30-odd minutes? It just turned for Fnatic and they never came back, is it?
I've also got to throw some criticism towards Reckless. This guy played these team fights very poorly. His damage output was not there. He was playing super defensively. I kept my eyes on him throughout that final Drake fight, and his priority was running away rather than helping his team. And that is not the Reckless that we're used to seeing from the regular season.
And I think partially it's due to itemization, right? If you don't buy a QSS or you don't have a Mikhail, somewhere to keep you safe from a Ryze W, you can't really enter the fight until that is on cooldown. And that becomes very difficult to navigate. So when you try to optimize damage with your items, you sacrifice some of your positioning, your ability to play more aggressively.
The itemization discussion is becoming a lot more interesting as we see more games and more days play out. But where this sets us up in the group now is both teams are sitting at 3 wins and 3 losses. And of course, because RNG are 2-0 up over Fnatic, if there are tiebreaker scenarios, they sit above them. So there's no more room for error for these teams. And we start the second half of the group stage. What do you make of RNG bouncing back from their loss, picking up a pretty convincing win now? Their confidence has to be very high.
I mean, for sure, but it does feel like that attacking Xiaohu is one strategy that works in the early game, but if you don't keep the pressure up, RNG will find a way back in, because as long as Uzi and Ming have not fallen behind, they are a duo that always finds ways to get back into the game.
Yeah, well, we'll have to find out. Gentlemen, we'll get more time to talk about that a little later. But for now, I'm going to take a closer look, let's head to the analysts.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. That one is going to sting for Fnatic fans and EU fans as RNG pull it out in the end. Caps doing everything he can on that Aurelion Sol, his 5th unique champion over 6 games. But ultimately, Uzi and RNG, they do secure the victory here in the end.
Yeah, we had this entire segment prepared, praising Caps, talking about how he just wins all these games for Fnatic. We had all the replays lined up. And it died. Again, for the second time.
A very painful death.
I don't think it died because of Caps, though.
Oh, that's a very good point.
I think he's still playing exceptionally, and that segment will get its day in the sunshine because I don't think he's going to slow down. He seems to be playing so well, but it was the rest of the game that kind of fell apart.
And unfortunately for me, like, this sounds so surface level, but anytime I look at Fnatic, they remind me so much of Edward Gaming. Back home, EDG, they have incredibly strong laners, particularly in the AD carry and in the mid lane position, and they have a supportive jungler that just kind of bounces between them. They roll over you in team fights. RNG completely dismantled Edward Gaming. So looking at RNG versus Fnatic, especially if Fnatic were ever going to play a 5v5 run it at RNG, I was like, there's no way. It doesn't matter what type of bad day RNG are having. That's a style that they just have so much experience playing, and they would be able to roll over.
The problem is just RNG has been in team fights the last few days, and against other teams than Fnatic, they've lost.
Yep.
Like Team Liquid could beat them, even when we got further into the game earlier today. That was a huge surprise. I've seen this RNG team being dismantled now by some teams. Fnatic was actually doing it, but you are correct. The moment we got into a big team fight.
Right, RNG found themselves in a bit of a hole moving into that mid game, but when it comes to the mid lane team fight, we're going to take a look at that one here because RNG get the turnaround, but Fnatic has an opportunity to make a decision. Deficio, explain it to me.
Well, so if you look at the moment, or this point here in the game, like they're TPing in, they're very split up on Fnatic side, and all of RNG are obviously grouped together, so they're definitely ready to take the fight, and yet Fnatic decide to make the call. We are ahead at the moment. We should go. I think Reckless has just completed his 2nd Zeal item, and Uzi's only on 2 items, so it makes sense that you make the call. But this is here where RNG's very, very strong team fighting kicks in.
I will say, playing a lot of ASO, you want to be next to your AD carry, not opposite him. And that's why Cap's positions on him very early. But in doing so, that's when the Recon engage hits perfect.
3-man knock up there on both Aurelion Sol and Reckless.
Now, here's the thing. Like, this seems very strange, but in the TL versus Fnatic game, the tempo and the advantage in the team fights was put on double. It was the Caitlyn that got super far ahead. And yes, Reckless 100% could have done more in those fights, but he was playing, what, 1, 2, and 3 at that point in the game. He was behind Uzi in terms of itemization, and he didn't turn online, but I just find it different. Like, the responsibility that Caps is the guy that has all of the gold at that point. He's trying to push over the team fights. Aurelion Sol wasn't on the right side of that fight, but it's different. You know, Tristana needs to be the step up there.
I mean, Aurelion Sol did land the stun. Yep. You know, like, it looked good. I actually just want to step away from criticizing Fnatic for not executing that fight and just praising RNG. Like, they see the TP. As 5, they all disengage instantly, and then the moment they see now the stun has landed from Aurelion Sol, we don't really have to be afraid of anything. Ming flies in, 3-man knock up, and Uzi just sits there, bam, 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 and he pulls the feathers back. They kill the first guy, and they chase it down. Like, that is just world-class team fighting, and you normally don't get to play against teams that can teamfight that well if you're Fnatic in the EWOS.
It was the permission they needed to engage. They take the Baron off the back end of that team fight. This puts Fnatic on the back foot. Jat, I know when looking at a champion like Aurelion Sol in particular, being on the back foot is not where you want to be. You wanted to be in the proactive position that you were for the first 25 minutes of the game, and here it just kind of felt like a slow bleed at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, that champion is all about creating numbers advantages on the map, and Caps, I thought, played it perfectly for the first 25 minutes of the game, and then after that, you have to play so far above your opponent, and when you're playing against teams like RNG, that's not possible. If they're team fighting at 95% efficiency, you can't do 120.
So then, Deficio, where does the responsibility lie at this point in the game, now that it's turned in favor of RNG, for Fnatic to come back in it if it's not on the Aurelion Sol?
Well, if you pick Tristana, you accept that your early game is not the strongest, and you have great scaling from your AD carry. If you then go to the late game and the guy in the mid lane has done all the pre-work, you now have gotten your items, well, then we look at the AD carry specifically. And Reckless, he wants to be in this position. He wants to try and be the one who wins you the game, and he got his chance.
So the final fight comes. We're taking a look at the AD carries, in particular that Tristana. Reckless piloting it. Let's take one more look.
And this fight was kind of wonky for me. I like the fact that Fnatic understood that they were kind of hamstrung. They had to go for the Elder Drake because of the mid lane priority. It's a lot of back and forth, and ultimately they just kind of take one step a little bit too far.
And right now, Reckless has gotten one hit off. So far, he's kind of been kiting to get close. He's not getting any hits right now. He gets to...
He could actually hit that rise.
He could have, but I think he sees the team back away and he realizes, wait a minute, I'm actually out of position now. So he has to jump away again. He barely got any hits off in this last fight. The team also ended up actually peeling away from him.
And here's what I think happened. You can see he had a hard time getting involved in almost every team fight with Uzi doing double the damage. He had Bloodthirster Essence Reaver as his final items after Double Zeal. That Bloodthirster should have been a Mercurial Scimitar, because I think the reason he wasn't stepping up is because Xiaohu could ruin Prison, and when Xiaohu ruined Prison, that set him up for the Rupture. So he was knocked up, silenced, or rooted for most of that fight. With the Mercurial, that doesn't happen.
And that's why I'm 99% sure he misclicked when he bought 2 BF swords in the late game and stepped out of the base, because one of them went to an Essence Reaver. Makes sense. Where does the other one go? You can only get
at that point, it's Bloodthirster and Bloodthirster only.
And you need Scimitar, so you have a way of avoiding some sort of CC, so you can actually step forward and start hitting more aggressively. In the end, we didn't get the damage we needed from the AD carry. Blame the team, blame the player, and that's why they end up losing.
I do also want to talk about the comp, though, because you are correct, he needs to step forward, but it is so hard to step forward into Messiah, Rise, Cho'Gath. Like, you have to fight that front to back. There's no way you get any sort of backline dive on those champions.
RNG now own the head-to-head against Fnatic with that second victory over them here to kick off the second round robin. After the break, we have an interview with Uzi and a clash between Flash Wolves and EVOS. Don't miss it.